Okay, welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be going through my team, all checked off after the Amy Community Series. So let's go through and see what changes I've made. My whole team has changed. There's maybe 2 or 3 players that are the same. Let's start with the defence. So I've gone with Jake Lloyd, Rue Laird, Caleb Daniel, Jaden Short, Zach Williams, and Josh. I'm not going to try and pronounce his last name. Jake Lloyd, pretty obvious. He's a great player. He's averaged 100 plus for several years now, and he's just a great player all round, and there's no doubt in my mind that he is a great pick. Then there's obviously Rory Laird. He looked really good in Adelaide's midfield in the practice match against Port, even though they got absolutely destroyed. I have no doubt that Rory Laird will be the key to that Adelaide midfield this season, and he'll get a lot of points. Caleb Daniel looked very promising and had a great game for the Bulldogs against Melbourne, and he's all round a great player. Jaden Short had the best round of anyone, and I've had him in my team before. I took him out for that video, in fact, for my old SuperCoach video, because I was like, I didn't really trust him. But after a performance where he got 43 disposals and pulled in 179 fantasy points, even though that was AFL fantasy, I imagine that would be very good in SuperCoach. So for me, Jaden Short is great. If he's going to put numbers up like even near as good as that, then he has to be a lock. He could be a great defensive player this year. Zach Williams, he might not end up in my team. Carlton have decided to challenge his one-match suspension. If that fails and he is suspended for round 1, then I might take him out of my side and I might put Highmore and start Highmore instead, because I think that Highmore is a very good chance to play, especially with the fact that James Frawley is now injured. I think Highmore, maybe even he gets a starting gig, because I think it's been pretty clear that Brent Ratton favours Frawley and Highmore and Wilkie over Carlisle. So I think Highmore is definitely a great chance to play. Will Gold also, I just like him as a bench option. Maybe he can come in for Kazicki. Kazicki kicked 6 goals in his game, so he was incredible, and he's probably not going to do anything like that. But after that performance, you kind of have to pick him at his price, because after that, it's pretty much guaranteed he's going to play round 1, and if he does anything like that, he is an absolute bargain for that price. Let's move on to the midfield. As for the midfield, I've gone with Jack Steele and Clayton Oliver. I think these two for your M1 and your M2 are just incredible players. They're both Steele and Clayton Oliver. They were both top 3 midfielders for last year. Steele came 3rd in the Brownlow, and Oliver looked really good. I think you can't go past either of them. I think the only reason you wouldn't have one of them in your team is if you're trading one out for Lachie Neale. But personally, I just think Lachie Neale's very good, but I just can't buy him for that price. It's just too much. Tim Torano, definitely someone I might change out of my side. I don't know. It's just really a filler. I looked at people who were picked by other teams, were picked by a bunch of people, and I knew were going to be good. And Tim Taranto just fell into that, so he is my filler there. Jack Sinclair had a great game. In the Amy Community Series, he collected about 122 points, which was great. He got around 28 touches, so he had a great game, and he's definitely a guarantee to play. And maybe I take him out of my team because there are some better options for that price, but for now he's in my team. Then we've got Tom Green. I mean, the hype around this guy is real. He really looks promising, and I think you've got to pick him at this point. Tom Green has to be a lock. Jordan Clark obviously had a super game for the Geelong Cats, and after that, at just 241,000, I think you've got to put him in your team, at least on your bench, because he's going to start after that, and if he pulls out like anything close to that, then it's a good value pick. And if he can string some games together this season, he could be very good. Brandon Campbell, he looks like a very good pick. He looks like he'll be coming mostly off halfback for Sydney, but he really just impressed me, and I think he's a really good player, so I think he's one of my locks for rookies. Perkins, I just really like the look of, and he seems like I can also swap him into my forward line if I need to later on. As for my bench, Luke Valentine, obviously he's shown greatness. He's been really good. Burgoyne has also been pretty good. For the power, he looked all right in the game. He might not get into round one because he does look a bit rocky. And then Connor also looked really promising for Richmond against Collingwood. Grundy is my main ruckman. He didn't do that well, but I feel like a lot of the ruckmen didn't do that well, so I'm not really stressed about Grundy at the moment. And Draper, again, he just looks promising, and he'll probably be a pretty good value pick, I reckon. Paul Hunter, I know that he is a pretty risky pick, and I understand now why people aren't picking him, but I like him, and I think he's a good bench option because I think he could, for someone who's that cheap, I just really, really can't ignore him, and that's why I'm adding him into my team. Dustin Martin, he wasn't super promising and maybe isn't going to be the best forward mid option, but with what sounds like Beveridge is going to do to Dunkley, I just can't pick Dunkley in this situation, and that's really disappointing because he was in all of my teams now, but now it's kind of dusty. Dangerfield looks all right, and if he performs, and I might swap Martin out for Dangerfield later when I maybe do my final team, but I think Martin's a lock. Higgins also looked very good in the practice match. He had, I think it was 113. He kicked a couple of goals. He got 20 plus touches. He looked quite promising, and he also did that in the Kangaroos game against North Melbourne. So I think he looks pretty promising for that midfield role, and not midfield role, and he looks pretty promising because I reckon he'll get quite a few touches in the Saints forward line and also kick quite a few goals. Especially, it seems like Butler isn't having much of an impact. Jack Loney had a pretty good first half. He got 69 fantasy points. He kicked 4 in the first half. Loney got 69 fantasy points. He kicked 4 goals in total. He was, I think, the second best scorer in the Saints Colton game. I feel like for 350, I feel like if he can return to that 2019 form where he was bagging in goals, he was like had that purple patch, then he could be a very good pick. Jack Zeeble looks really good coming off that half-back role for North Melbourne, and, well, for his price, I think he's going to average a lot better than his price, so I think he's also a pretty good pick. Joe Danaher hasn't failed to train in any sessions and really looks like a good pick. Again, for 233,000, kind of like Siebel, you can't really ignore him and he's a pretty good pick. Jarman Impey, also someone who's coming off a bit of an injury. So I hope that he can perform well, but I don't know. I am a bit worried, and he's probably, out of that forward line, he's probably the one who I'm thinking about getting rid of the most. If we go to my bench, Brockman also had a pretty good game for Hawthorn. Though it was against North Melbourne, so I guess you can't really count it too much. But he had a pretty important game, and I feel like there's no harm in putting him on the bench. Waterman looked, well, for pretty much 100k. Smack him on your bench. I don't really see why not. It's pretty good pick. So let's just go over my team. You can see my defence there. My midfield there, my ruckman, my forward line, and my forward bench. Okay, just to finish off the video, if you've got any suggestions to change my team around, just leave a comment below and tell me who I should maybe swap in and who I'm forgetting to swap in, and maybe I should get some players out. I'll just tell you the ones that I'm pretty sure that I might be swapping out. Jarman Impey, I'm really thinking about swapping out now because he does look. I am a bit worried that he's even at his price, he just might not get a game. I'm also pretty worried that last defensive spot obviously might change. Also, the Williams role definitely is a possibility to change because if he gets suspended, then I don't really want to pick a suspended player. Taranto, definitely someone I'm considering swapping out, along with Sinclair. I feel like even though Sinclair had a pretty promising performance, I feel like he's probably someone you can swap out. And Taranto, I just really picked him because other people picked him. So when I go in picking my round 1 squad, then he will definitely be in consideration. So this is going to be the last SuperCoach video I do where I show my team. Before I do one on my final team for round 1 next week around Wednesday or Thursday. Whenever you see this, either the next day, my AFL Fantasy updated team will come out, and it won't be the same as this. It is different because AFL Fantasy is a different strategy game. And then I'll also be doing a video on some of the players I think really promised and you've got to kind of consider for your fantasy and SuperCoach teams now. And for now, see ya.